Hitler's army marched into Hungary. And of course the Jewish population was doomed. Up until this late date in the war, the Jews of Hungary were still in their own homes, which all the Jews from other countries in Europe were already in some kind of camps. When the German army marched in, they rounded us up, put us into a ghetto for 2 weeks, and then immediately deported us to the largest extermination camp called Auschwitz-Birkenau in Poland, where my mother was murdered on arrival in a gas chamber, and my 16-year-old sister and I were separated from our father. The Nazis had tricked us, actually, tricked the Hungarian Jews into believing that we are going to Germany to work for the war effort. My sister and I managed to stay together for 6 months. Then one day during the twice daily roll call, she was selected out. We still managed to meet every day near the electric fence when we were separated, just to assure that each other was still there. But after about a week, she stopped showing up and I never saw her again. Had no idea what happened to her, where she was taken. On the 17th of January 1945, the Nazis dragged me onto a 3-day march from Auschwitz to a slave labor camp in Upper Silesia called Libau, where I became a slave laborer for the Krupp Industries. Auschwitz was liberated 10 days later, on January 27, 1945. But because I was a slave, I was not liberated until May 8, 1945, the day the war ended. I remember that morning very vividly. We woke up early as usual. Immediately we could tell that something was wrong. No capos or overseers were present, banging on our 3-tiered bunks to wake us up. No one was calling us to roll call, but we had no idea what was going on. Suddenly, the gates opened, and a handsome Russian officer came riding in on his horse. Hesitantly, we took a chance and came out of our barracks, approaching him. His uniform jacket was heavy with medals, indicating, of course, his high rank. As he came closer to us, he looked down and began to demand, calling to us in Russian, "Yevrei, Jews?" Jews? Why would the Russian officer want to know whether we are Jews? When one woman finally responded, yes, he jumped down off his horse and began to cry and pound his chest, yelling to us in Russian, "Я тоже еврей, I'm also a Jew." Despite his high rank, it was also not very popular to be a Jew in the Soviet army. So he kept it as a secret. He instructed us to stay put until he returns. When he looked us into the camp and went out to get some food for us. Someone shot a horse and he brought the meat which the women cooked into a stew. That was the first meal I ate in my 14 months of incarceration. Then, with not a penny in my pocket, a single thin garment only on my body, not even underwear, wooden Dutch clogs for shoes, emaciated and with my head shaved, I returned to the world, the same world that 14 months earlier had put me in the camp. Now, how does one become human again? A group of us women decided that we would be safer traveling together, so we began to walk and hitchhike around Europe, hoping to meet up with someone from the family or maybe a friend. We then found out that we were only 6 kilometers from Czechoslovakia. Not knowing what to do, that first night of freedom, we saw a restaurant that was open. And because I spoke the Czech language, the women asked me to go in and ask for some food. The restaurateur was very kind, ended up feeding all of us and allowed us to sleep in the restaurant that first night. 3 months later, by accident, I ran into my brother at the Red Cross Center for returning survivors. My brother had been a partisan, a freedom fighter. So the Czech government rewarded us with a former Nazi apartment in Prague. Soon after, we found out that my father was still alive in the hospital of a camp called Theresienstadt, or Terezin, a model concentration camp. Though dying of tuberculosis, he died 4 months later and is buried in Prague's Jewish cemetery, where we put my mother's and my sister's name on his gravestone, so there should be some memory for them. 2 years later, both Frank and I had married. In 1948, I and my new husband and an 11-month-old baby came to the United States to begin a new life. Recruited by the Haganah, my older brother, Frank, went to fight for the newly created state of Israel and remained in Israel for 15 years. It was then that I realized that I couldn't mourn forever, feeling sorry for myself. The Jewish people needed to be reborn, and each survivor needed to do what they could do to achieve it. I was very lucky in this country. I became a quite famous fashion designer, earning many awards and accolades, but still something was missing in my life. I didn't understand why and what. And in 1977, when the Simon Wiesenthal Center came to Los Angeles, they put out a call for survivors to tell their stories. But nobody wanted to speak. Desperately, they asked me to speak. I too was hesitant, but after thinking about it for a little longer, I realized that the world really needs to hear the stories of the Holocaust.
Among the many who were liberated from the concentration camps was a 20-year-old girl from Czechoslovakia. She is here with us tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Renee Firestone.
I was asked, would I come to Washington to present to Steven Spielberg? Well, I couldn't believe that. I thought that somebody's playing a joke on me.
Those of us who survived the Holocaust were worried that soon our stories will be forgotten. But after Schindler's List, a miracle happened. You, Stephen, created the Shoah Foundation and recorded tens of thousands of survivors' testimonies. Thank you for what you have done for all of us, and of course what you have done for history. You are our hero. Thank you, Stephen.
And my new career began. 40 years later, I still speak all over the United States and Europe, hoping that the world will understand and the lessons we learned from the Holocaust, that they will remember that we must respect each other, help each other, and treat each other with kindness. Unfortunately, if you watch your televisions today, you realize that it seems humanity learned very little from our history. The killing is still going on, only this time it is not only the Jews getting killed. No one is spared anymore. I ask you, how is it possible for us to save humanity? So to parents I say, speak to your children and teach them to respect each other and help each other. But to teachers I say, order your students to put their cell phones in their pockets and start talking to each other and get to know each other. This way they may just find out that most people want is to live in peace. And by learning to respect and care for each other, maybe we can make that happen. We can save this world. Thank you very much.
I thank each and every one of you for joining us today on such an important occasion. And I want to thank you, Mrs. Firestone, for sharing with us your powerful and poignant words. Words woven into a message that must continue to be shared for the good of us all. The majority of us here in this room only know what happened during World War II from textbooks and media, which we know is not always accurate. Some of us may have heard select accountings from relatives and veterans. My own father shared very little of his World War II experience because it was simply too painful. And then a few of us, up until today, have never had the honor to hear firsthand from an Auschwitz survivor. Not only did Mrs. Firestone survive the Holocaust, she went on to thrive with her family, her business, and now her endeavor to do her part to preserve her experiences. She does this so that over time, what happened at Auschwitz is not diluted, is not forgotten, and reminds society of the dark places in history that must never be repeated. Mrs. Firestone, I know you repeatedly ask yourself, why me? We talked about that last night. Well, quite frankly, I'm glad it is you, because it is you who has stepped up and answered the call to service for all of humanity, and you have done this with valor and distinction, and for that, I thank you.
We would like to present a token of appreciation to Mrs. Clara Firestone by presenting a bouquet of white roses. Your unwavering love and support provides your mother with the strength needed to share her inspirational words and bring awareness to such prejudice and hate that we still see today. Mrs. Leslie Petragon, on behalf of the soldiers, civilians, and family members of the National Training Center for Irwin Community and the United States Army, we would like to present to you a certificate of appreciation. Thank you for your support in singing the national anthem. Your efforts greatly contributed to the overall accomplishment and success of the 2017 Days of Remembrance. Ms. Nicole Myers-Koff, on behalf of the soldiers, civilians, and family members of the National Training Center for Irwin Community and the United States Army, we would like to present to you a certificate of appreciation. Thank you for your support in the candle lighting ceremony. Your efforts greatly contributed to the overall accomplishment and success of the 2017 Days of Remembrance. Mr. Steve Sobel, on behalf of the soldiers, civilians, and family members of the National Training Center for Irwin Community and the United States Army, we would like to present to you these gifts to show our appreciation. We thank you for your support, assistance, in Banamor Shalmala Synagogue in making the 2017 Days of Remembrance ceremony a success. Mrs. Renee Firestone, on behalf of the soldiers, civilians, and family members of the National Training Center for Irwin Community and the United States Army, we sincerely thank you for sharing your experiences during our Days of Remembrance. Your heartfelt expressions have left all of us with a renewed respect and honor for those who were victims, those who took action, and those who survived and witnessed the Holocaust. We thank you for taking the time to make this event a success. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me once again in giving a round of applause for all of our honored guests.